introduce him this time because I'm sure he can introduce himself. But Mark is a great supporter of GameHorizon and has been for many years, and we're very grateful to him for that. And Andrew Oliver, who's the Chief Technical Officer at Blitz Games in the UK. Not to be confused with his twin brother Philip, and I'm sure if we did, we wouldn't be the first. No. So, thank you very much.
Thanks, Charles. Thanks, Charles, for that introduction. That was awesome. So yeah, I think we seem to be on the kind of a cusp of a new generation of hardware, not just traditional kind of home console hardware. But there also seems to be a lot of interesting technology around in terms of micro consoles like the GameStick and the UER. The Oculus Rift seems to be getting a lot of excitement from the development community. And there's interesting things like Project Shield from NVIDIA, Google Glass, which seems very interesting but also quite intimidating. So I just wondered if we could start by getting each of you guys to kind of give us your view of the market, the impending release of new hardware and how significant that's actually going to be. Is it going to be significant over the next kind of 12 to 24 months? Mark, why don't you kick us off because you've always got something to say.
I mean, always got something to say. New hardware is always exciting, so it's a great time. I think Will was saying it. It's a great time to be a game developer. There's so many avenues you can go down, so many things you can try, so many cool things you can experiment with. And they all have, a lot of them have big promise. Some of them are a little more niche-y, but I think we heard earlier that doing something niche could actually be very successful and desired. So I think it's, I think I've been saying this since kind of the rise of tablets. It's a great time to be a game developer, right? And so the more, the merrier.
Okay. Andrew, you've had lots of experience with different hardware. And
I love new technology.
Yeah.
I'm a sort of technology optimist and realist. And the realist comes from the point that it's like technology is just going in so many different directions at the moment. What I do think is cool is the fact that pretty much every man on the street now thinks that technology is cool and pretty much everyone is playing games, or they're using their technology and they're getting into games. So that's great, but the proliferation of devices and the fragmentation is just creating a massive nightmare. And it's like, where do you go? Do you aim really sort of low and wide or high and small? And it's kind of seeing where the businesses are, where the business models work. So, because there used to be a time where it was very, very easy to create games on console and just be able to sort of have reasonable sized teams, create reasonably sized games and sell them for, well, I would say $30, which is a reasonable price. Whereas now it's just gone massive in one direction and then wide and low the other direction, both of which are too extreme.
Okay. Samir, you're obviously a GameStick guy. What kind of what convinced the company to go for it, to go for this kind of let's create this micro console and see if we can, get the audience there?
Yeah, it's about covering a niche. I guess we saw a gap in the market for different reasons. To say the other players in this new era of Android console gaming, as we're trying to establish. So we existed because they found it easier to assemble off-the-shelf parts and create a gaming system. We existed because we were a smart TV publisher, and we found, smart TV gaming to be a real pain in the ass to navigate and go into and discover. So we tried to create a system using off-the-shelf parts, just like we did, okay. Some open systems that allowed us to create game-focused, solution. And, the other solutions you mentioned, Oculus Rift, Google Glass, they're all trying to, find a niche. And as Andrew said, it's just about trying to find the right business model for these to succeed. So that's what we're trying to do.
Why was smart TV a pain in the ass? Because it's probably like 18 months ago at conferences like this, there were a lot of sessions about smart TV being the future.
Fragmentation.
Yeah,
I mean,
nothing smart about smart TVs.
Yeah, the smartest TV is one that gives you a bloody good picture and you plug in something really decent to it. Because the fact is, you don't, renew your TVs that often. And the TV manufacturers, they're building in a piece of hardware, like the chips, and that part of the technology is dating so fast and so rapidly that are you going to make sort of apps for a TV that is like a niche of a niche, and it's just so fragmented.
Okay. So looking at the market now, and you kind of touched on this earlier, how do you make, like as developers and as studios, how do you make that shot on which technology to back? Like what convinces you, and how do you make that, you know, execute and we go, because you could be backing the Atari Jaguar or you could be backing the iPhone, right?
Okay, I'll go first. A lot of it is just finding where there's a business. So a few years ago, we decided that motion control was really cool. Mm-hmm. We did a lot of games on the Wii. We quite liked the sort of the active nature of the style of games, the type of games you can do. And then obviously Microsoft came along with the Kinect, and we went straight into that and said, all right, let's go for this. We'll throw everything at it. And we had a good few games over those years where Kinect was really good. Mm-hmm. And we loved what they represented. But then things come and go as fads. So.
Mark, what's your take on kind of which horse to back?
Well, I think you start with a game that you want to make and that you think are going to delight the players, and you figure out what's the best platform for that. And it could be the best platform suits it because it's very graphical. It could be because it's a motion game. It could be because you want to make something, you know, that's suited to touch. I think that's, if anything, that's the big story, probably about kind of what we're talking about today, is this idea of, as the Brits say, and I use this term a lot, the horses for courses. And the idea that you find the platform that really suits your product, and then the users will be happier with it. In other words, you'll have a better gameplay experience that way, and business will come after that.
Okay. Do you think these new projects and new technology are coming forward because the console manufacturers of this current generation were pretty insistent that this was going to be a 10-year life cycle instead of a 5-year one? And, you know, has that kind of opened up the opportunities? Has that given a bit more breathing space to people to create, not necessarily challengers, but alternatives to games consoles?
Yes and no, for some reasons. So for, you know, looking at Go, I think that's one of their inspirations. Again, as I mentioned, ours was not. But, you know, I think it was due time for some innovation, for some refreshment of, you know, of some sort in the hardware side. But also, because, you know, gaming hardware in the form of smartphones and tablets, you know, are available for quite a low price, and you know, it allows digital. You know, the digital download system allows games to be downloaded to the devices directly. You don't have to go through retail, and you know, the open publishing method kind of brought lots of developers and games to these platforms, and this was not. You know, this isn't, you know, existing on TVs. TV gaming is still quite closed in terms of the Xbox and the Sony's publishing model. Of course, they're doing some great, you know, work with the XBLA and PSN games, opening it up, and of course the new consoles. There's a talk of opening up further, but you know, this just had to happen. This, you know, the affordable gaming hardware with combined with, you know, the digital distribution, the cloud-based gaming model, just had to happen. So it was not due to a lack of any, you know, hardware refresh. It's just, you know, the natural course of technology bringing this into existence.
Okay, I just wondered that because although there's not been new consoles, you know, the rate of mobile and tablet iterations, you know, 6, 12, 18 months and new models, there's certainly been that thirst from consumers to keep buying technology and keep buying new hardware. And I wonder if the console manufacturers may have dropped the ball a little bit by not bringing out new technology every 5 years, because that money has still been spent on hardware.
Yeah, but it's what technology would they have brought out? Because they're going after the living room space. And the fact is, although there are obviously handheld consoles, but in the living room, there's a certain perception of the type of game you have, wonderful graphics, it's immersive, and you play it for a decent amount of time, and you pay a large amount of money. They did what they could on the digital download space, and they were making headway, but then people were getting phones and wanting better smartphones, and a lot of it is how you pay for it as well, because a lot of people were just going, I'm happy, my phone doesn't really cost sort of $400 or $500 or pounds, it's just a contract, you know, and I'm going to have a phone, so therefore I'm going to get the best damn phone I can, even though it costs a little bit more per month. And suddenly you realise that there's a hell of a lot of power in their hand, and these are really expensive devices that people are just walking around with, but they're happy with that. And then they know that they can get as many games as they want for next to nothing. So it almost feels like a sort of investment, but it's actually an investment slightly against their console gaming habits, if they were even a console gamer. It's like, well, I spend my money over here now, rather than over there. And I think there's a lot of that is happening.
Okay.
I think the console, you know, how long the generation went, I think it comes down to a few things. It comes down to the console manufacturers wanting to put together a new piece of hardware that will really make a difference, as opposed to just wanting to refresh it on a regular basis. And I think that if they had refreshed them after 5 years, the amount of technology they would have put into them would not have been a big enough leap to make a difference to people. And they would have, you know, they would have gone for this. You know, I don't think you can do the console business the same way as you do tablets. I mean, they're, you know, Apple, like clockwork, every year is at least doubling the performance of these things. It's incredible. And, you know, and Samsung now as well. I mean, everybody's doing that, and that's amazing, but I don't think you can do that with consoles because they have a longer design cycle, they're more expensive. Like, I mean, here you're looking at 16 times the amount of memory in the new consoles that we had before. That will enable new kinds of gameplay experiences. If they'd gone for 4 times, would that have been enough? Probably not. So I think that they had to wait until they could put something together. I think the days of them subsidizing the hardware with massive R&D spends, you know, I think that disappeared when they started buying more, I'm not going to say commodity parts because they're still all custom GPUs, but more commoditized parts. You know, they're using Intel architecture now, and they're using more off-the-shelf type GPUs, and so they're able now to buy a much, much better PC, if you will, to put inside that box that's connected to your television. So I think that the timing is just what it is because they're trying to make a big difference.
Okay. I'm keen to bring the audience into this and start asking questions, but I'll just ask one more just to kind of keep it rolling. Do you think the next generation of consoles are going to lack variety in features? I mean, if you look at mobile and tablets, you know, it's a very touch-centric gameplay. The Oculus Rift is, you know, that kind of VR crazy thing. You know, the Google Glass could potentially have some kind of really unique gameplay elements. Do you think the next generation of games consoles won't have that kind of, not fad, but those kind of unique little touches to them?
Well, let's not get ahead of ourselves. Oculus Rift is a display technology primarily, with integrated controller in it, but it's something you plug into your PC. The PC is the platform, and Oculus Rift is the peripheral, and it's an awesome peripheral. I mean,
yeah, it's fun.
If you haven't tried it, it's really cool. But that's different, right? That's not the platform. Google Glass is a low-end Android platform, so it'll probably be a while before you're really doing substantive games on it. They'll do, I think people will do all kinds of AR games that'll be really cool, but as opposed to, like, Google Glass doesn't have any Z buffer. Like, it can't, like, selectively shut out parts of the world to add, you know, cool graphics over top of it. It's very much a transparent only technology. I think where Google Glass will evolve to is that whole idea that I could put a guy right here in that seat, a really amazing guy who's really lifelike, who looks like somebody you know, and who's doing lifelike things. I think that's the long-term Google Glass type thing is incredible. The short-term one is kind of a transparent technology, more of a display than a platform. Okay. So I just want to correct that.
Sure. Okay, let's open it up to the audience. It's difficult to see actually, but there's a chap just there.
Thanks. Hi guys. Just want to really probably be a bit boring and predictable and talk about next generation consoles and kind of turn the idea of opportunity on its head. Basically, from what little we know about consoles, they're going to be much more kind of media centric, more entertainment heavy, and thus are probably going to draw a far wider audience than previous generation consoles who probably don't look like the typical AAA buyer. Where's the opportunity? How do games developers monetize it? how do you find out who they are, what they look like, and how to target them?
Oh, is that me again? I'm the console guy. Nothing wrong with a Trojan horse strategy. That's exactly what's going on in tablets and phones today. So that's very positive. I think people have a bit of a misconception about the consoles being these great pushing towards media hubs. I think they've already done an awesome job being media hubs. I think somebody said PlayStation 3 is the #1 platform for watching Netflix. By far, it's not even a close race. And so I think that they're already doing that. And people are already, I mean, how many of us now watch Netflix? How many of us download movies instead of going to the store and getting them on a disc? And how many of us partake in, cloud for our music and things like that? So I think they're already doing a good job with that. I think what you're going to see the new consoles do is they're going to do a better job of making it easier. Like, I think the real big thing that the consoles can do is they can improve their interfaces. They can improve the Xbox Live type experience. They can improve their media center capabilities. But that's only going to make them also better platforms for having your games. Your games will just come down from the cloud. You won't have to, you'll be able to go to any Xbox, sign in, and boom, you'll be able to play your game. And so I think where consoles can learn from tablets, what Google and Apple have done is they can basically have that anywhere you want to, any console you want to play your game. It's all stored for you. You don't have to carry a disc around anymore. I think they can make gaming a lot more convenient, and then I think you'll game more if it's more convenient. That to me is what tablets have done. It's made gaming a lot more convenient for me.
I think to take a slightly different tack on it, is there's innovation and snack gaming or whatever on the phones and the tablets, and then you'll get these amazing immersive experiences on the console. If you want to really just sit down for a good few hours, like watching a big feature film, it's like do that on a big console, and that's great. What I do think though is that the Xbox and the PlayStation are very capable machines as they stand, but they didn't change any sort of business models, and they didn't embrace certain things like the free-to-play. I mean, MMOs have been massive, but they don't sort of come across to consoles. And there's these they talked about it earlier, the sort of walled gardens, and the very curated, you have to get above certain bars and stuff. Now, I'm a fan for making sure that you don't get masses of dross out there, but I think it just got too limited and just got fixed into everyone kind of playing it safe with certain genres just because that's the way it was. And consoles are associated with very strict genres, and everyone knows the kind of size of game, the quality of game, and there's a certain level of expectation. Whereas actually it's just massively open on phones and tablets. It's like you can have little tiny things or you can have massive things.
But I do think, I assume everybody here knows already that, I mean, the next gen console is going to be fully embracing the free-to-play and these IAP type business models. I mean, so in case you don't know that, I'm just putting that out there. That's what they're both, Sony and Microsoft are both going heavily in that area.
That's obviously what they're saying at this point. We still need to see some kind of evidence of that, I guess.
Well,
do you think?
I'm telling you.
I'm saying that's what needs to happen.
Okay. So
I'm telling you what they're telling developers.
Okay.
Charles is there. He could have confirmed a bit about the Xbox and the Xbox next gen.
So it's kind of a follow-on, and you almost answered it, but do you expect changes in the business models, whether that's in a games as a service sense in terms of subs on, subscription games on a console, or free-to-play on a console, or something like the mobile model where you take out a contract and you don't effectively put down £400 for
There's all sorts of places that have worked for mobile phones, and there's all sorts of levels of expectation now from the consumer. They love being able to buy things on contract. They love being able to get stuff for free, and they love being able to just in-app purchase if that's what they want, or they love to be able to pay for it. We love to get, as game developers, we love to get analytics and do updates almost instantaneously. I mean, those things are really, really cool to engage with the audience, and those are things that you just haven't had on consoles. It really is, we're always mastering sort of late summer for games that are coming out at Thanksgiving, Christmas, and it's just like, it's months away. And then, I don't know, do people get updates occasionally? It's like, there was a sort of plan that you have 1 or 2 DLC packs, but it was very fixed, and it doesn't feel like it should be.
So my answer is yes.
Okay. Don't break those NDAs. Shall we get another question from the audience? There's a chap just in this, well, kind of middle there.
Hi, this is a question for all three of you, or whoever wants to answer. You talk a lot about portable games on tablets and phones, and I wanted to ask what your opinion is on more traditional handheld consoles like the 3DS and the PS Vita. Do you have any predictions for them over the future, and how successful do you think they've been?
Having just about to release Epic Mickey on the Vita,
Go on,
just finished it. I think that the 3DS and the PS Vita will continue to sell pretty well for a good few years. I think there's a certain type of market, there's a certain kind of parents who feel comfortable giving their kids that, saying, yeah, I bought a game. Admittedly, I think they're too expensive still, but it's like I bought a game for an experience and it's been designed to be playable, not designed to eke money out of the kid while they're playing. So I actually think that they're so global, the world is embracing games more and more, so you might be in the back of Beyond, but your dad or whatever gets a phone and thinks, this is damn cool, I start playing games. I think my kid should have games. I'm not going to give him my mobile phone, but I'm going to buy a Nintendo or a Sony like handheld. I think there is a very good market, and it's kind of niche compared to phones, but that market is just so massive of the number of people who are going to wake up to games and say, my kid's going to have the safe games. And so I think it's going to thrive for a good few years.
I agree. I mean, it's a niche market, and sometimes you're not connected to anywhere, and you just want a good gaming hardware in your hand to play good games. But it can evolve. It can be more connected to your TV. It's all leading to convergence. We have augmented reality headsets coming. It'll work with your phone, with your TV. So I think the evolution is that these things should work more closely with all the other technologies that's out there. Perhaps your PC or a TV, PS Vita does that. Wii U remote does that. It takes on from TV. So maybe that's the evolution. But yes, it'll definitely be there, I think.
They answered it. Next question.
Okay. So we have another question from the audience?
Over there.
Just over there.
Samir, are you concerned about the possibility that the low-end Android device, Ouya's and so on, are you concerned that that's going to become hyper-competitive on price and commoditized?
Yes, thanks, Charlie. So that's coming from the Xbox guy. In a way, we are just at the beginning of an industry that we are the first people trying to establish.
No, we're not. Consoles.
We invented consoles.
I didn't say we invented consoles, but we are just filling a gap of affordable in a game's hardware. Console manufacturers get lots of off-the-shelf stuff and create a really high-end PC. We are creating a very low-end, starting off with low-end stuff that enables great games. But yes, I mean, since it's off-the-shelf, it's very easy for anybody to come and put together something. So what we are trying to do is, so our value will be in creating a good developer ecosystem, our relationship with developers. We're going to create a store that any of these hardwares can just license of us and put it on their hardware. Loads of Android-based TVs are coming up in China. We're in talks with loads of other manufacturers of hardware that use ARM-based systems to put our store on them. So the value we're trying to create, or the value for us, is in this virtual console that can be put in other hardware, and the hardware wouldn't matter in the end. Yes, to answer your questions, we are worried about that, so that's why we're trying to diversify business, not make that our money-making.
I'm going to throw a question back to you, though, being Mr. Xbox. So, are you concerned on Microsoft that there's all these low-end consoles going to flood the market?
Oh yeah, this is good now. Let's all the press leave the room.
I honestly can't say anything before May the 21st.
May the 21st.
I can't comment before May 21st.
Ooh, that's an interesting answer. Let's dissect that. What do you think he's saying? You think he's saying that he's not concerned about price? So how
They must be concerned about
sell
price.
your console with the subscription like the iPhone does? Because that's a pretty interesting business model, right? Like you can not an iPhone 5, but you can get an iPhone. I guess it's the 4S now for free from. In the US, I assume it's here too.
You can pretty much get iPhone
no, for
5s
free if you take a 2-year subscription.
Yeah.
So is he saying maybe
can do that.
Microsoft might do something like that?
Okay, so, okay.
Oh, hello.
Okay.
Which would negate the free thing, because you know you're going to get a much better
So
technology.
we've always been focused on premium experiences, and that's an area where we will continue to focus. So we think that Xbox is a premium brand, and we're looking to provide premium experiences. We think people will pay for experiences which they perceive to have a premium value.
And with us all being gamers here, we all like that. We want premium experiences.
Sure. But one of the...
But Apple's a premium brand, and you don't have to pay anything.
Yeah, there's a lot of rubbish on there. It's like you have to trawl through it quite often.
That's what I would do if I was Sony or Microsoft.
So one of the systems we haven't spoken about is the Wii U, which was only released not long ago. Are people being too quick to judge it and write it off? Is it being written off?
Personally, I'm not sure. I am a massive fan of Nintendo, their brands and their games, and always have been. But I'm not sure with this one. It will come when the software comes, and I don't think the software is compelling enough at the moment, and I think that's why it's just had a faltering start. The 3DS had a really faltering start, and then picked up, and it had their few titles, but they came sort of 6-9 months late. But if they're not very careful, then there'll be other consoles which eclipse it.
What's your opinion on the Wii U, Mark?
I'm staying out of this one.
Okay. that kind of speaks volumes, I guess.
No, I mean, Nintendo always shows up with great games for their platforms. And
but
it's like you said about the DS. The DS kind of had what you call the faltering start, and then eventually the titles came and sold like gangbusters.
If they bring out
titles, you can't write them off. It's still early on.
That's it.
Okay.
They're investing hard.
But you know,
in good games.
They're losing support at retail if the hardware's being cut in price, and if there's not a lot of games developers announcing projects that are on the Wii U, then that's a concern as well, surely. Rather, you can only exist on Zelda and Mario for so long, right?
I don't know though. I mean, they've done really well. Yeah. It's like I think most people do buy Nintendo consoles for Nintendo games, and that's done them very well, and could continue to serve them very well. Certainly, I'm more than happy to buy Nintendo just for the Nintendo games. If I was told I could never have any third party, actually wouldn't bother me that much. I play the Nintendo games because they're fantastic. Okay. They just need to bring them out, and they need to get on with it.
Okay. Let's have a question from the audience.
We've exhausted them.
Are we drying up already?
Hey, do you think Apple are missing a trick by not getting more into the console space? If I frame that in the context of Sony having quite substantial losses, Microsoft having substantial losses over the long.
Is that the trick they're missing? Losses?
I mean, or are they being smart? Or are they being smart by waiting? Do you think it's a space they might get into with Apple TV? Maybe integrate a console into that, or something like that? Just speculation.
I don't know. Apple doesn't tell anybody what their future holds.
No, it's a complete mystery to anyone and everyone. I think there's obviously some people inside Apple, but I believe that Steve Jobs wasn't a particular fan of games anyway, but it's kind of like just accepted that if you make an app store, games will come, and by God, they came. But I don't think there was a massive push ever to sort of get into gaming. It's the developers that have pushed those devices to do games. Whether that's changed with Tim Cook, we shall see, shan't we?
I think Apple's done a fantastic job. If you look at the companies who are basically copying them, it's pretty obvious they're inspirational to the rest of the mobile, and I guess mobile is both tablet and phone. So I think Apple just has to keep their foot on the accelerator, and I'm sure they will.
I think they announced, there was rumors around GDC around a controller that Apple were in secret talks with developers to kind of promote for their ecosystem. It's not.
Those rumors always circulate.
There's always
we do
rumors
pretty
about
well on
Apple.
their platforms.
But for me, it's very particularly interesting because it'll kind of validate. If Apple TV at $99 comes out as a gaming system with a controller, it validates, our kind of industry, the affordable. End of the gaming
I don't
hardware
think
industry.
Apple thinks that's an industry. I really don't.
Well, time will tell, Mark.
I can't help thinking that they would be much more profitable and more success generally if they sat down and spoke to you guys.
Well, if you think about Apple TV, what is it really, really good at? It's really good at being that AirPlay connector between your tablet or phone and your television set. And AirPlay is fantastic. And if they can reduce the latency on that and improve the connection to the device, then it seems to make sense that you're going to upgrade your phone every other year, every third year, however often you do it. You're going to constantly have a much more powerful, more expensive, better quality device than anything you can plug in your TV for 99 bucks, right? It's just the way it works. And so if they can improve that connection, they already have a gaming or console ecosystem. It's just a question of, can I put this thing down and pick up a controller and then have this talk to my TV? I mean, I actually, what was that conference a year ago? I demonstrated that here, right? We had a prototype controller, not from Apple, and I had an iPad, and this was physically connected to the TV, and I was able to, go around Dungeon Defenders with this Logitech Bluetooth controller and control it and sit on the chair and use that as a kind of a portable console. Now, since then, I don't see Apple jumping up and doing that. They may not think that's an industry, but to me, it feels to me like the proper play for Apple is not to put more money in the little box you connect to the TV. It's to make that little box maybe less expensive and more accessible, but to put more money into how that box communicates with the more expensive device that you already have, that has way more power, that you're replacing regular anyway. One of the big console manufacturers told me their research was that people only change their TVs once every 8 years. Yeah. And they were very reluctant to plug new things in and out of their TV. And so you had to have a really good reason to pull something out of a slot and put something in. And so I think Apple TV is a bit of a Trojan horse, and it helps with their iTunes ecosystem, and you own all this media. You're going to want to watch it on TV when you're at the TV, on your tablet, when you're traveling, potentially on your phone when you don't have that. So I think, to me, it just feels like that. I don't see Apple adding a controller to Apple TV, except where the controller is the tablet or the phone that you're going to spend way more money on.
I think there's a really interesting thing that is happening, and that is that when the console manufacturers bring out a new console, it's suddenly a big step up, and that people will go, I'm going to buy that because the experiences are going to be so much better and so much newer and so much fresher. There's a really weird thing that's happening at the moment with phones and tablets, and I was really disappointed when I got my iPhone 5, apart from the fact that everyone kind of goes, oh my God, you got an iPhone 5. It's like, what does it do? You know what? It does exactly the same as my last phone. I still play Angry Birds and stuff. It's like, it just looks slightly fresher and slightly less scratched. And actually, there's a really funny thing that's happening, that people are buying and just upgrading to these massively powerful computers in your pocket. And what are they doing with them? Exactly the same as the last thing. So they're just released.
But hang on. But the apps get faster. They load fast. Like,
I know,
saying that people shouldn't upgrade, it's kind of silly, because the more memory it gets in the device, the more capabilities it has, the more interesting software you can have. If you go and look at some of the apps that you run today and try to run them on the original iPhone, forget
absolutely.
about it. Right? Even Angry Birds probably won't run very well on the original iPhone.
No, but all I'm saying is, as a game developer, it's like you're always trying to say, okay, we want to do a really impressive game, but we've got to make sure that we're still compatible with the iTouch or like iPad 1, although most people forget the iPad 1. But you sort of like, you're trying to make a game that covers like the backwardly compatible, which actually becomes sort of quite problematic, because it means that if you're Apple or Samsung and you're bringing out your fresh new phone, where's the game that exploits that phone? So, especially when, yes, okay. Okay, but you know what I mean? It's like, so the Samsung Galaxy S4 came out this week or whatever, okay? And there's probably one or two kick-ass people. There we go, we've got somebody who's grabbed one. Okay, so where's the game that shows that new piece of kit, what it can do, that can't run on something else? Whereas as soon as you get a new console, like every experience is fresh, new and exciting. And I just feel there is a little bit of a gap here.
That's because phones serve multiple purposes, and you can't develop that game until you can develop that game, but you can't release that game until you have a fairly large install base of those devices selling, especially with free-to-play, where a very small percentage of players pay. So there's no point releasing like what's a launch title for a phone, unless it also runs well on previous ones. But the ones that are really going to take advantage of the next big jump, you wait until there's enough of those, enough in an install base.
Yeah. I just think it's a funny thing that people are bringing out new technology, but you can't get that excited by it. Whereas on consoles, you can get really excited because day one, every game you buy will be a brand new, fresh experience.
You know, we should probably also talk about the PC.
Okay.
Right, and so you're seeing. We're seeing a lot of PC is moving to laptops, right? I'm seeing fewer and fewer people buying big, heavy iron desktops, and a lot of them are buying laptops. And we're definitely, Intel, I think we beat them up for 15 years over their crappy integrated graphics, and they're finally getting good enough. And so I think that's kind of exciting too, and you're starting to see a lot broader experiences on PC gaming, and a lot more opportunity, because even that base PC, which is, and when gamers are still buying desktops, and I think they're buying desktops in big numbers, and they're still buying high-end rigs, and that's all good. But I think the people who, that Trojan horse idea of like the people who cottoned on to gaming on tablets and also buy laptops and lower-end machines, they're now starting to get machines that are good enough to play decent games, League of Legends and things like that, and games that have decent amount of graphics in them. And I think that's ultimately quite good. And it's been a long time coming. We beat up Intel for years and years and years, and trying to make them understand that graphics matter. And I think NVIDIA finally got enough developers using the GPUs as more than just graphics devices, and Intel finally woke up and said, okay, we gotta compete in this field. And so I think there's a lot of opportunities there as well. And I think you're going to see PCs changing in a lot of form factors. And you're already seeing things like the Surface Pro, which is a very version 1.0 version of the future PC. But next year, the year after, when that has Haswell or Broadwell in it, and really powerful chipsets and long battery lives, I think you're going to see an explosion in PC gaming as well. And I think you're going to see these convergence devices that are as powerful as a PC, as convenient as a tablet. I mean, those are coming. Yeah. And so I think that you're going to have the ability to just do a lot more with those things.
Okay. Do you think that's going to eat into the console guys' lunch a little bit, because of the the accessibility and the high-end gaming experience that they're creating?
No, I mean, when I hear people predicting that consoles are going to die, it's like, what did I hear? Someone said something. I can't remember. I read it on Twitter at lunch, but there's a big kerfuffle about Warren Spector, and I shouldn't pull him into this.
Our producer.
But he talked about. He said, "Does the world really need another Wolfenstein game?" And he got beat up. The internet beat the shit out of him. And so he kind of said, what he means is, do we need more shooters and all this stuff? And that's fine, but it's like, wow, it has become politically correct to be dismissive of people. It's like, well, do we really need more football next year? We had football last year, and the year before that, the year before that, the year before. God darn, we've had football for 50 freaking years. Do we really need more football? And so that's why I never understand when people segregate these entertainment experiences. Do we really need more blockbuster games? Yeah, as long as people are buying them. Do we really need more blockbuster movies? And this whole indie versus AAA versus mobile versus, yeah, as long as there are experiences to be consumed and consumers that want and enjoy those experiences, bring them all on, right? I mean, bring them all on. They're all good. They're all enjoyable, and we should stop looking at the birth of one as being the death of another.
Okay.
I mean, one of the interesting things is if you look at film and TV, when TVs came out, the film industry turned to making epics because they thought it's the thing that you can't get on a TV. So MGM and all those huge things, because they didn't want to lose their market, and they knew that the one thing that they could bring is these massive Ben-Hur type epics that you could not really watch on a TV. And so they just changed their scope a little bit, and you see it today. It's like, we've got fantastic TVs in all our living rooms. That doesn't mean to say that the film industry is going to say, oh, no one's going to the cinema anymore. What they've got to do is make it more immersive, and that's what they do, bigger and better. And that's exactly what's happening with console. So you're actually getting the world embracing games more and more, and a percentage of them, and the percentage is probably getting slightly bigger, but the quantity of audience that really want a better gaming experience than they just got on their phone, they realise, actually, I do like games, I'm going to buy a proper gaming console, and I'm going to have a really fantastic experience. So I think it's not going to damage it, it's just it's a different experience. Different way you spend your time.
I was annoyed that Farmville came along, right? I mean, you know.
Do we have, yes, we do have another question.
Yeah, I just want to ask the cheeky question to Mark, to follow back his logic to the Apple TV and the fact that, you know, actually, it's the devices we have in our hands which are increasingly powerful, and we know they're going to continue to get powerful, possibly with the rate of iteration, faster, more powerful than any console will be. If Samsung, or someone like that, were to put a DLNA dongle, a wireless dongle, in every tablet package and every phone package, might then, possibly, we see the end to other platforms?
Well, I don't buy the argument that they're going to get more powerful than consoles, because that's a time-based argument. It has nothing to do with you know, kind of, that you're assuming that consoles just stop, that there isn't a new console ever. So that's the problem. And I think you need to understand, there's nothing special in here, don't worry. It's just, well, I mean, there's an iPad. But you need to understand that the amount of power you can put in one of these is limited by the fact that it's not plugged into the wall, and you hold it relatively close to your body, and it's a portable device, right? And so, I think that kind of, the idea that we don't have bigger, better, more amazing experiences doesn't make sense to me. So no, I don't see that. Now, that's not to say that that couldn't be successful as its own thing, because that's kind of what I was talking about Apple TV. I have this thing, I go somewhere, I want to watch it'd be great if there was a unified standard, by the way, for these things on all TVs, everywhere you went. I'm in the room, I can put this down, I can pick up a controller, I can play a game, but that doesn't exist because there's too many manufacturers and there's too many you know, ecosystems and too many people trying to do their own thing. But you know, that kind of experience, I'd welcome it, but that doesn't mean that I wouldn't also buy that really powerful, amazing thing box that's connected through, you know, not wirelessly, but that's connected to the internet directly, that I have just a massive pipe for.
It's not just about technology, it's about business models. I mean, the fact is that large investments are put into console games to make them look the way they are. Maybe in a couple of years' time, your latest iPad will have amazing technology that could pull off something impressive like a Watch Dogs or whatever.
Well, it will, though. I mean, no, that part I agree.
Will. The technology will, but will there be investment and someone saying, I'm going to make 50 million to make an iPad game that every iPad owner will want?
Yeah, it's inevitable.
You think it will?
Yeah, of course.
I think that's a different business model. It's like the TV thing. It's like they'll make a $100 million movie. How many $100 million TV series do they make? It's few and far between, I think.
Oh, I think it's inevitable. We'll have big AAA blockbusters on these devices. When the audience is big enough, when there's enough of them, when they monetize well enough. I mean, if Ubisoft could spend $90 million on a game for this thing, and because they thought they could make 300 or 400 or 500 million, they would. Why wouldn't they?
I agree with that. I mean, there is no limit to the quality of games. I mean, the hardware will be the limiting factor. If these games can push good games that you know, are available on consoles,
it's just a matter of time before they can do it.
Some games.
Well, I mean, Moore's law takes care of this.
Yeah.
No matter what, right? So yes, that'll happen. As you say, it's time-based. But at that point in time, what your computer will be able to do will be massively more. What your potential console will be able to do will be massive more. And that's what I'm saying. You can always say, well, 5 years from now, iPad should be more powerful than, well, or 2 years from now, iPad should be more powerful than Xbox 360 or PlayStation 3. Okay, but there's a new console in the market at that point in time.
Yeah.
So, you know, that always happens, right? I mean, that always happens.
But how long do we think the next generation is going to last?
Don't know.
Would you, so you guys have probably...
Could you have guessed how long this one would last?
No, it's longer than I thought it would be.
So you guys have both gone through the kind of 5-year console cycle and the kind of 8-9-year cycle.
Yeah, I don't know why people say 5-year console cycle, because I'm sure that every console's actually taken a year or two longer. It's just been steadily getting bigger.
Which would you prefer as games developers and people that make a living from selling games?
I quite like it to be about 5 years. I think that's actually quite good, that you get comfortable and you get sort of 3 or 4 iterations before you start.
1 year.
1 year.
1 year, okay. I don't know, I like to sort of refine it and have a game series or something, have about 3 of a series, and then everything changes or whatever. Now, maybe a series or a franchise can continue, but you can rewrite the rule books because there's a new console.
Well, the thing is, if they can go the model of that kind of, pay for the service and every 2 years we'll give you a new piece of hardware, if they can make that work, then it could be, they could constantly be introducing better, faster hardware. I mean, consoles now, and I got a little beat up for saying this comment where, well, the PlayStation 4 is like the best gaming PC, and I didn't mean it was the most powerful gaming PC. I meant it had the power of a great gaming PC, the simplicity of the PlayStation Network, which I'm sure is going to get a lot better. Like even the stuff they've talked about publicly, they're going to make a lot of improvements. It's going to be a lot easier to find games and play great games, and so it's like it's making your PC gaming experience even easier. And it's connected to your TV, and it'll update in the background, and your games will always be there. And so my point was that if they can do that, and you find value, consumers find value in paying them for a service every month and paying for that, and then they can use that service to keep constantly improving the hardware and staying ahead. I mean, there's no reason why now, with the kind of equipment they're making, why they couldn't have a PlayStation 4S. Like an iPhone, a little bit more powerful one. Yeah, runs at a faster frame rate. Or in other words, imagine, okay, PlayStation 4 will run games super fast at 1080p, maybe the PlayStation 4S will run games super fast at 4K, and the PlayStation 5 will be an upgrade. I mean, in other words, they could go the same route as these guys are doing, and potentially have a new business model for game consoles.
Okay, cool. Well, I'm getting the big red flashing light there, which tells me that we've run out of time. So thank you very much, Mark, Andrew, and Samir.
That was really interesting. Thanks, guys. So, just to finish off, thanks so much for